this, and as the title says, and as promised, this is my review of TNA'S No Surrender 2008. Of course, this is about a week old, but you know, I thought I would review it. And I think the title comes from you trying to TNA wondering if you would surrender to this pay-per-view, because this was not good. This was just not good at all, in my opinion. And yeah, let's just get started. You do not start out a pay-per-view with a 10-minute okay promo. This was not good at all. This promo by Sting, it was a Sting promo, him basically saying that, you know, he was going to get title shot, all of this stuff, which was just kind of It would have been much better at the end of the pay-per-view, I think, if they would have done the three-way, which turned into a three-way because Booker was stuck in Houston because of the hurricane. He if it would have, you know, would have done the match, then he came out, did his little spiel, and it was I think it would have worked better that way. But to do it on the beginning, it was just like a TV promo done on a pay-per-view, which always gets a thumbs down. Bad start to a pay-per-view. So 15 minutes after into the pay-per-view, we finally get our first match. The Prince Justice Brotherhood versus the Rock and Rave Infection. This was pure comedy, and it was for the most part it was okay. It was a little too sloppy for my taste, but I thought it was an okay comedy match. As good, you know. I definitely think you could see better, because I think where the comedy did not work was, you know, on the Rock and Rave part of it. Though Christy Hemme did a pretty good job, because the Prince Justice Brotherhood did a pretty good job of doing their bits. You know, so there we go with that. Star and 3/4, not a good start to the show at all. Then we had Awesome Kong versus ODB in a street fight, which I was looking pretty forward to. This match did not deliver, in my opinion. I don't know. It just did not feel as good as it should have been for whatever reason. It was good. It was okay. I would say I give it 2 stars, but it was kind of disappointing, and was kind of there. It felt very much like they were just kind of going through the motions, which, you know, not too good. Then we had Abyss and Matt Morgan versus Team 3D. This was hard to watch in some parts. It just seemed like they were out of sync. Matt Morgan looked okay. Abyss looked okay. Team 3D looked okay, which, you know, and they were all kind of, it was a lot of sloppy stuff. Just did not enjoy this. Felt like I had to force myself to watch this. Very much felt like a TV match in a lot of ways. A lot of stuff on this felt like a TV match. And I would give this a 1.5 stars. It was just not what you would want to see at all. Not very good. Just blah, to be honest. Then we had Sheik Bashir versus Consequences Creed versus Petey Williams for the X Division title. This was a good match, good 3-star match. This is the type of match, whenever I watch a Ring of Honor show, I always say this is what I think TNA should do. It was pretty good. They played to the fact that Petey Williams was pretty much the face, and they did the whole U.S. versus Canada thing, which worked, but I think they went a little overboard with it, in my opinion, especially the announcers. But overall, this was okay, or this was good. A lot of good spots, a lot of good stuff, lot of fun. The finish kind of came out of nowhere, and I really didn't care for it. But I guess it worked in the context of the storyline of the match, but it just was just kind of there. But still, it was okay. There were a lot of good spots in this, though. I will say that. Then we had Tyler Wilde versus Angelina Love. This was very much a Divas match all the way through. Again, it felt like a TV match. It did not feel like a match that should have been on pay-per-view, because you had Tyler Wilde came out. You had the Beautiful People and Kip out there. She brought out Rhino, and then you had all of that sort of. So you had a lot of interference, a lot of stuff, too much stuff going on in the match, and it was kind of unfortunate. I think they could have had an okay match. I definitely don't feel like they could have had a good match, though. Then we had Sonjay Dutt versus Jay Lethal in the Ladder to Love match. This was actually a pretty good match, except the storyline definitely got in the way. The end of the match got in the way with it as well. It was just kind of stupid. But you know, this was actually booked much better than any other match that they've had so far. We probably haven't seen the end of this feud, unfortunately, but this was a good 3.5-star match. A lot of good, innovative spots. It was kind of lacking that big match feel that you would like to have in a ladder match, because the rest of it just had been so bad leading up to it that it was just kind of like, ooh, this is good, but there you go. Then we had Beer Money versus LAX. This was just kind of there. This was okay, 2 stars. Yeah. Then we had AJ Styles versus Frank Trigg. This gets a big fuck you to TNA. Why they hadn't made me watch this, I have no idea. I think this killed the crowd. This just made this pay-per-view just bad, in my opinion. This gets a dud because it went more than a round, and it shouldn't have gone more than a round. The fans didn't like it. And TNA, you don't focus in on the crowd when the crowd is screaming, "We want wrestling, we want wrestling." What was up with that? That just makes you look stupid. Okay, I'm sorry, but it does. This was hard to watch, and then you had a screw job ending on top of it. I mean, it wasn't even that it was. I mean, because it was starting to get good, and then you just ended it in a screw job. What? I don't know who thought that up, but they need to be fired. Whoever thought that up needs to have their head examined, because that just was not good. Then we had Samoa Joe versus Christian Cage versus Kurt Angle. This was kind of strange because they stuck Christian Cage in here, knowing, like when I went to Victory Road, where Booker was going to be the most over guy. They stuck Christian in here, played up the fact that he was going to be the most over guy, and stuck him on this pay-per-view in the main event, where he was going to be the most over guy. Again, making Joe be second fiddle to a guy that he's in the match with when he's supposed to be the face of the company. It was just, you would think you would learn from your mistake after, what happened in Houston, and they didn't, apparently. Apparently this is what they're going to do when they have hometown guys, I guess, that can main event. And this was just, it amazed me, because they did the same sort of thing, where they just built up Christian as, oh, Christian could win, Christian could win, Christian could win. It just was kind of lame, in my opinion. Came off very badly. This was a good match, though. This was, I give it 3.5 stars. I thought it was good. I thought it was enjoyable, but nothing great. There was nothing great on this whole pay-per-view. This was pretty blah, in my opinion, to the point where I'd give it a 6, a straight 6. This was just, if this had been on television, this would probably be a very good episode of Impact. Or even a 3-hour special. This would have been a very good show like that. But when you're asking people to pay $30, that doesn't work. And people will come on here and say, oh, but people stream and people do this and people download. I firmly believe a lot of people do that because they don't feel like wasting their money on this crap, though they want to watch it. So because there's things on here, maybe one match they want to see. But none of the matches really delivered. I mean, the only match that I would say that delivered, I would say 2 matches delivered, and everything else underperformed. I would even say the main event underperformed. Sonjay, Dutt, and Jay Lethal, I would say, maybe over-delivered a bit. I would say the X Division match probably did about what it should have been, but everything else was just not good, bad in a lot of ways. Way too much just stuff that shouldn't be on pay-per-view. I mean, and for this to be the first pay-per-view you have in Canada, I think it's not the first show they've done in Canada, but it's the first pay-per-view they've done in Canada, which means you're probably going to have more people than you normally would for a TNA show. TNA really needs to look at themselves in the mirror, because if I watched this, I would be like, why should I buy Bound for Glory? Because this pay-per-view did nothing to make me want to buy Bound for Glory. It didn't. It felt like they took my money and ran. I mean, this is the type of, or would take my money and ran. This is why I, thank God for streaming and downloading. That's all I have to say, because this was not worth the money whatsoever. Just a bad pay-per-view. I don't think too many people could defend this pay-per-view, to be honest. Maybe depending on how much you liked the good stuff on here, you could defend it. but I don't think there's any way you could actually defend it as far as being, you know, worth the money, because this definitely wasn't. And this is the type of crap that TNA can't afford to do. TNA cannot afford to put on pay-per-views like this. They have to go out there and they pretty much have to deliver every time they're out on pay-per-view. And when they don't, it hurts their product. And at some point they're going to have to realize that, you know, that they have to go out there and put on pay-per-views where people go, you know what, I'm going to order the pay-per-view to help support the company. Because I think diehard fans would do that. I could be wrong, I could be out in left field, but that's kind of the way I see it. Like I said, I give this pay-per-view a 6. Pretty bad pay-per-view. I mean, I was just sitting there going, good God, this is hard to watch. There's a huge section, probably I would say almost the first hour of this pay-per-view was very hard to watch. The second hour, probably not so much, but you had the AJ Styles Frank Trigg just disaster that was just booked horribly. You know, TNA needs to get their shit together, and apparently they have no concept of how to do that, I guess. But what you gonna do? Like I said, you know, that whole AJ Frank Trigg thing, that's just a big fuck you to TNA, because that's just retarded, in my opinion. Because why would you do that to your fans? Why wouldn't you? You know. Anyways, I'm out. Later.